All right, it is the Newport This Week video podcast series. We're here every week with something that brings you closer to your world on Aquidneck Island. And I'm Bill Bartholomew, by the way. You can find this podcast at newportthisweek.com and on the Newport This Week YouTube channel. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about, we'll keep it very generic in its description, but I think it's fair to call it drama and a back and forth between Newport and Middletown. It's a big story on the island. It has reverberations outside of Aquidneck Island as well. And we'll get into all of the detail. I would recommend anybody who's watching today to go back on our YouTube channel or on newportthisweek.com and you can kind of piece this story together as we've tried to do both here on the podcast and, of course, with the great coverage inside the newspaper. Jeanne Marie Napolitano is former mayor of Newport, councilor, and somebody who is, look, you know the business. We'll keep it at that. So welcome to the podcast. Just give us sort of your executive summary, especially for anybody who's not following the story closely, what we're talking about when we say drama or a back and forth, at least between the municipalities.
Sure. Um, well, the way it started, we did our original trying to uh, facilitate somewhat of a marriage with Middletown over the years. So that's the beginning. And we had that vote in 22. And what I can say is that Middletown probably did an excellent job in promoting what they thought was in the best interest of their community. Unfortunately, I don't think we did as well, and the motion failed. However, what's happened now, we have really kind of evolved. They keep referring to these secret meetings. I can tell you there's been a total of 4 meetings or 4 discussions. The first one had 4 people. The second one had 8 people. The third one had, I think, 12 people. And the last one had 10. So we were trying to gauge the interest in areas where we might be able to work together and probably save the community some money, save the taxpayers some money. Particularly in this year, we're facing an extremely difficult budget, as is Middletown, with the building of schools. So obviously, it came to an effort of perhaps offering, a discussion about regionalization, both the communities. I had talked to the various counselors, all of them, and they said, well, we want to meet with Middletown. I think that's great. I think that's exactly the direction we were headed in. Um, However, what happened was after the 4th meeting, um, the information was repeated to the entire council in a session, and they just said they didn't know anything about it. Um, that's not true. I emphatically have told them, anytime we can work with a sister community, I thought it was a good idea. I said it to Mayor Zai. I said it to uh, Charlie Holder, Mayor Holder. And I just believe that so much is into this that we really need to take a good hard look, because the future tells us the demographics, it's about the economy of scale. We are losing population of school-aged children in Newport. And obviously, we're competing with the money for new schools. And every time we turn around, Newport School Department has requested more money. More money, not only above the bond cost, which was 110 million, but also more money along the way to fulfill their obligations to the contractors. Well, I checked it out, and over the last 3 years, we have given them more than $26.2 million extra. We need this conversation. That's what it's going to be. a conversation, and we're under a gun right now to try and get this done. The resolve for the Academic Advisory Committee, I was fine with it until I read the last resolve, which said the committee shall prepare a comprehensive report detailing recommendations by June 2026. Resolved that this report shall serve as a foundation for all current and future efforts regarding educational regionalization under the present council, and that the report's findings shall be thoroughly reviewed before seeking additional state or municipal action on regionalization. They just kind of screwed up the whole timeline, and we need approval from the General Assembly. So, they have admitted the reason they put this resolution in the last resolve was to kind of stall this, to stop and let them do their thing. But it's the younger members of the council, or the newer members, I should say, of the council, that just, don't understand the timeline. I certainly was willing to move forward after our last and final meeting, the fourth meeting. And that's why, I had indicated that, and I called all the council members about this meeting. That's what they were asking for, the meeting with Middletown Council, and that's what they deserved. But we couldn't get enough signatures because we were told the mayor couldn't sign the paper. It needs 3 council members. I asked Councilor Smythe. I was unaware that Councilor Camsabar was out of the country, and I asked Pennick, Councilor Pennick, and I thought we had the 3 signatures, and we did not. So we could not move forward. And it's a shame. It's worth a lot of money to both communities. And people always say, what are you going to do with that money? Well, the money saved, it's not like money in our pocket, but the money saved on the building cost, I certainly believe, and I have always said, we should put money toward the schools to make them whole, to give them the kind of teachers that they want and need, to give the students all the opportunities, all the students, in Newport and Middletown, the opportunity, whether they want to go to a career tech or an academic, and offer those classes. But right now, if we're working in silos, and it's not working, obviously.
Right. What we have here seems to be a collision of economic and demographic realities,
Yeah.
a legislative and governmental timeline, and
Nope.
suspicion and or skepticism.
Yes.
And these
Yeah.
things are colliding in a way that at the end of the day, as you look to the future, as you indicated, planning is extraordinarily difficult, or I should say it's difficult to plan within those realities when the ball isn't advancing. So what's your instinct as someone who is a creature of Newport government? What's your instinct as to how the ball can move forward here, given where it seems to be right now, which is we don't want to say stalled, but it is definitely a volley at best.
Yeah. Well, and what was interesting, some of the counselors who had voted um, to have this resolution, and I said it on the floor, that everything in it about academic involvement and equity and all, I was fine with. But when it got to the point of tying people's hands, that they would not even allow a discussion to take place, and then characterizing our discussions as secret meetings, it was anything but. Anything. How do you gauge the interest unless you're talking to other people? I've said it from the floor repeatedly. We're working in silos. We are truly working in silos. And to know that we have given the schools an additional 26 million over the last 3 years, um, it's kind of embarrassing that we won't even be able to talk because they insist that this was part of their resolution. I have talked to both Councilor Pinnock and Councilor Smythe, and they both said, "Oh, well, that's not what we mean." And I said, "Well, what did you mean?" That's the whole reason I couldn't sign on. So, right now it's a little bit up in the air. We are under a kind of a time frame. They're talking about the General Assembly closing out prior to June 30th. So it's important that we get some sort of uh, resolution in there that would allow people to vote. One of the things that was mentioned was that I guess Councilor Smythe, and I'm not sure who she talked to, she said, "Oh, I didn't know whether the vote was September or April." I said, "Stephanie, I told you it was April. We have almost a year to provide it." And I would agree, the last time it was way too quick. But this time we've got all the information for all the people. Let them make a decision. And to hear some of the counselors say, "Well, they've already voted against it, so we're not going to, do it again." I'm so glad our forefathers and foremothers didn't feel that way, because anytime you can give the public the right to vote their destiny, I believe in doing it. And that's why I've continued to endorse this, regardless of how the vote turns out.
Yeah.
You deal with what you have.
Right. It's again, it's that sort of economic and general realities and civic engagement. And I mean, you can really boil it down to planning for the future. I mean, I already said that earlier, but it's
Yeah,
planning for the future in a way that
yeah,
understands the realities of where we're going. And again, it is interesting that the General Assembly, they could close out before June 30th. Always difficult to tell. Sometimes it has to do with
yeah,
weather. Sometimes it has to do with an election season. The Speaker Shikarshi planning and a run for governor. These are all things that are completely out of the control of the Newport and Middletown councils, and
yes.
and cannot be factored in as anything concrete. Last couple of seconds here, your message to your fellow counselors and to anybody who's watching this saga unfold as to what a meaningful resolution looks like in the short term.
A meaningful resolution would allow all these discussions in regard to regionalization and what they're offering to take place, and to put it on the ballot for April um, of 26. Uh, I'd hate for both communities to lose this opportunity. And they keep saying it's about the money. Well, you know what? That's what it takes to run a school department. So, I'm, over that. I just hope we can get a resolution in there.
Counselor, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.